Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Miles, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope you're having a great day. As you know, today is Monday, not just a regular Monday, but it is Mo Better Monday. I hope you made it through. You're at the end of your day and you're fired up for Tuesday because you know how hard Mondays could be. That said, brothers and sisters, I'm glad to have you on the program. And without further ado, I want to give some quick shout outs, if you will. I want to give a shout out to Sister Rhea. I want to give a shout out also to Brother Kendrick Samuels, who is recovering. He had some surgery. We hope that you're recovering and your family is refreshed. I'm going to give another shout out to Maxine B. Cade, of course, the owner of BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. We appreciate you coming on the show. I'm telling you, brother, it was a great show. It was an excellent show. And yesterday's show was good too. You know, talking about the crisis in public education. I got some notes after that show. I hope to respond to some of you, but a lot of you made extremely valid points about education. We actually had some input from my brothers in Canada who talked about how schools were put together in Canada. And, you know, because it's a misnomer because you think schools are a certain way down here, that they're a certain way over there. And thank you again, Altaf and Brother Adam, for filling in the blanks for us. I didn't know some of the things you told me, and it really just informed me. Also want to give a shout out, of course, to Sister Satana, who's been soldiering in that position. We hope she's feeling better. She's coming back on the show today. And a quick shout out to the Muslim community in Greensboro, North Carolina, for holding it down and trying to establish not just a masjid, but a community. And we hope to be able to support you in purchasing or paying off the balance, if you will, of your masjid. Shout out to Houston area Muslims, DC area Muslims, New York area Muslims, LA area Muslims, Chicago area Muslims, New Jersey area Muslims. I'm hollering out everybody that's claiming Muslim today. So today's episode, you're looking at the tag. It says the cause is celebrating pride. Now, many of you know a lot of times when I go through a subject matter, I do take time to go through the minute details because I feel like they're important, because sometimes you can have a direct shot, but it's a direct view of something that was not the most effective view. Old school, I've learned from my great teachers that I've had and some of my great mentors that I had, that it's very, very important to take a micro view of things at the same time you're taking a macro view of things. What I mean is the little details have to balance out against the bigger details. And sometimes in a narrative like we do on the show, we do a roundabout way. Sometimes some of the things I do go on tangents, admittedly, but it's to get us someplace. Because sometimes I believe that the view that we're looking at, that's the view that people want us to see. They want us to see the front of this situation, not really go around and understand what the back of the situation looks like. The nuts and bolts, the soup, the nuts, the things like that. You know, a lot of times when we talk about policy, people don't understand. Policy is directed, policy is conceived, policy is executed, and you have to live your life around policies. Today's subject, if you will, brothers and sisters, it's about pride. Now, we all know that pride can be a good thing, pride can be a bad thing, but pride can be strategic. Pride can be strategic. I was reading some old writings from ex-slaves, people who were in slavery and came out of slavery. And the one thing they said, that pride was intelligence, but that intelligence could get you killed. Let me say it again. The ex-slave said that pride was intelligence, but that same intelligence could get you killed because you were in a space of people who were emotional, but they weren't intelligent. They were calculating, but they weren't intelligent. They claimed to even be moral, but they weren't intelligent. And I thought this was deeply profound. And I started looking around and trying to, as we say, read the tea leaves, if you will. Because every once in a while, you have to have forecasts on the show. I believe, brothers and sisters, as I begin to look forward, if you will, and have visions, that the thing that will destroy this country, the thing that will lead to all kind of civil unrest and racial unrest, is that the threatened class will present themselves as entitled to things because they have a prideful disposition to do so. When I say a prideful disposition to do so, it means that it's irregardless of your logic of irrational. Pride is a product, if you will. It is a summation of actions and views, and not just summation of views, but also activity and culture. I'm gonna give a classic, as my friend said, I'm gonna give a classic beatdown to pride in the United States. I'm gonna take two stories. We're gonna talk about the two stories, and then we're going to apply them to what we have been seeing over the last 20, 30 years. I'm going to go back to my childhood and I'm going to come back up to now. We're going to talk about pride, if you will. So I hope you're going to hang on. Let me say in advance, I appreciate your patience. You know, sometimes you put these things together. You have to be very meticulous because you are responsible. I am responsible for what I say, and I don't want to mislead anybody. Let's put that out there, number one. But number two, I do tend to want to make sure that I'm educating you as I educate myself. So we're going to be right back. Let's go ahead and start the show. Preacher Moss, SOS. All right, and we're back. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For those who are just joining us after the monologue, listen, big shout out, brothers. This is big shout out. I want to give a shout out actually to the LA Clippers who played a heck of a game last night. You were down 2-0, you came back, and I was just good to see people dial in. I'm a big fan about teamwork. You know that saying, teamwork makes the dream work, and I love that. I use it with some of my students and my clients, and I think there was a good thing. And the one thing I did see that ties into what the subject matter is I saw a lot of pride. People that didn't want to lose, people that said we're better than what we've been the last couple games, and pride was the thing that galvanized this basketball team. Not a selfish pride, but a selfless pride, if you will. And engaging and understanding that together we could be great, separated we could be defeated. Hold on to that thought. If you're coming on the show for the first time, thank you for showing up. I hope you don't mind clicking the notification button, thumbs up, all that type of stuff. We're trying to raise our subscription base, if you will, and it'll happen sometime. Allah knows best in these things. But if you're coming on the show, a few rules. Don't be shy. If you want to get in, make your comments, get into the comment section. Better known as the ShOUT family, the ShOUT Show soldiers. Now, these are a dedicated group of people that come on the show all the time. They view, they make the comments. I can't give you immediate membership. I can allow you a provisional pass, if you will, a day pass. But to be on the ShOUT show, number one, it's not that you show up. It's that you show up and you show out. You tell us what you're thinking. All right. So let me show how it works. Let me show you the stars in the building. First off, we have Brother Altaf Rashid. Why my salad but what's going on, Brother Altaf? Great comments for yesterday's show, man. I appreciate you. I was thinking about that early this morning. I was on the track about some of the things you said, as well as some of the things Adam said about the education system in Canada. It is amazing how I want to say the lower aspects or the more corrupt aspects of education, how people want to educate you, affect the whole nature and the whole scenario of education moving forward. You know, and I'm gonna talk about that too. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Next up, Johnny L. Thomas, my little brother. What's going on, JT? Man, I hope everything's well with you and the family. I hope this topic is something you want to jump in on. I'm gonna be talking about the cost of pride, celebrating pride. Big shout outs to you, Mr. Uncle. Your niece is going to college. I got that from Sister Vivian. And shout out to my nephews, Justin and Jordan and Ray. So we're gonna talk today. We're gonna vibe a little bit today, but I'm gonna DJ a little bit, throw some stuff out there, and hopefully you people will jump in. My brothers and sisters, you will jump in and add your Not 2 cents, but 10 cents. We got to value up. Next up, Ahmed Shahid, my main man, my brother. How you doing, brother? Man, so good to see you. I haven't seen you on some of the virtual cookbouts, brother. When I do see you, let me tell you something. I know I give you a hard time every time I see you, but let me show you. Let me give you your not your flowers. I ain't gonna give you flowers. I'm gonna give you compliments, man. You do a really good job of the cookbout, and I look forward to seeing you these days. Not that I didn't before, but you bring a lot of emotion, a lot of integrity to the position, and you get us excited, man. People tune in. So you keep doing what you do. Give your wife Salima my salams and hug those babies for me, brother. Thank you so much for coming on the show. My main man from WD Muhammad in Houston. Next up, okay, he's so glad you checked in on this because the term pride. Well, yeah, we have to take pride back. You know, Pride Month means something totally different. You're exactly right. Well, I'm gonna take pride back, at least for this day. There ain't gonna be no rainbows on the show today, so holla up. No rainbows on the day. I feel like John Witherspoon. Ain't gonna be no rainbows on the show today. Because I can remember, brothers and sisters, when pride was something you had, not something you wore. Okay, who we got next? Well, Sister Satana doesn't even put herself up anymore. We can give a shout out to Sister Satana working the back ends, the ones and twos. Y'all know she was struggling. She got that vaccine. It was half heroin and half pork. And almost took my sister out, but she's back now. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. All right. Let me give you case studies, if you will. Allow me to give you case studies about pride. 2 stories. Asheboro High School, North Carolina, in Asheboro, North Carolina. There's a graduation. Kids are getting their diplomas. Kids are walking across the stage and getting their diplomas. One young man, his name is Ever Lopez. Ever Lopez is wearing his cap, his gown, but he's draped in a Mexican flag. And as Ever walks up, the principal shakes his hand and tells him he's not going to get his diploma. Imagine that. You're a family, especially Latino family, and you got somebody graduating and they're not getting their diploma. Nobody's shaking his hand and nobody's giving him his diploma. He's escorted out of the building. His parents are outraged, upset, and they tell the parents that we're not going to give him his diploma because he violated the dress code. The dress code is the cap and the gown, and he had on dress shoes. I watched the video. They said, no, he draped himself in the Mexican flag. And the kid said, however old he is, 17, 18 years old, he said, I'm showing pride for where I come from. He said, I'm expressing my Mexican-American, the Mexican part of my Mexican-American experience. I'm showing pride for where I come from. He said, my parents, they bought me here. He said, so I'm celebrating this whole thing of the American experience, and the Mexican part of it in his flag is part of it. They did not give him his diploma. Here's 2 things. Number one, he's no longer a student. He's graduated. That's number one. But number 2, after the fact, they refused to give him his diploma, and they said, we're not going to give it to you unless you apologize for your behavior at the graduation. And he, young man, said, you should be apologizing to me. On this side of it, brothers and sisters, I'm with Evers. I'm with Mr. Lopez. Because he didn't do anything wrong. There were other kids who had stuff that showed they were from Mexico on their hat and cap, but he chose a flag. They didn't say that you disrespected the United States flag. They didn't say that you represented a hostile country, a foreign FTO, a foreign terrorist organization. We didn't like that flag. You did our graduation. No diploma forever. Flip it. Richardson, Texas, Highland High School. A young white girl named Paxton Smith is the school valedictorian. She walks to the podium. She's supposed to give her a speech. She reaches in her gown. She pulls out another speech. The original speech was about the effect of media on the youth. She pulls out another speech and gives a pro-choice speech to everybody there. Not only gives a pro-choice speech, she finishes the pro-choice speech. Nobody cuts off her microphone, and she gets her diploma. You see where I'm going with this? And she gets her diploma. And she gets interviewed on TV. Evers never got his diploma. She never had to apologize. He chose not to apologize. He never got his diploma. They told the family to come back later. I mean, this is where we are in America, brothers and sisters. You know, I refer back to the old slave that talked about that pride was intelligence, but it was that intelligence that could get you killed. Or, to add on to my ancestor, maybe it's the pride that makes you devoid or absence of intelligence. Because now we have a culture of people who are prideful, but they're dumb as hell. They don't know the facts. If a fact smacked them in the face, they wouldn't get it. So here we are in a culture that 1 + 1 no longer equals 2. It equals whatever you want it to. It's an X, if you will, X marking the unknown. We've gone from simple math and sentences to algebra to always solving for X. Why is it Ever Lopez doesn't get his diploma? And this white girl in Texas not only gets to finish her speech, but she even gets a diploma and an interview on TV. She even had AOC and Hillary Clinton applauding her, but nothing for Ever Lopez. Now, my point, brothers and sisters, and it's several. I remember being Ever Lopez. Many of you remember being Ever Lopez. If you ever had to go to school and you weren't the predominant culture, many of us were Ever Lopez. We weren't allowed to celebrate our pride. In the early 70s, I remember my father at one point not even thinking about going to work because it was the anniversary of Malcolm X's assassination. That's how much he was in tune to Malcolm X back in the day. And when I went to school, I carried that pride, if you will, that this was a black man who stood up for black people. But in that space, that educational space, you couldn't share it. You couldn't express it. And when I say you couldn't share it, you couldn't express it, it's because that pride, brothers and sisters, had no place in that educational format. It had no place in the educational forum. Black history, when I was a kid, was absent history. And I bring it up now, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to tell you why I bring it up now. Because we are several weeks away, less than 2 weeks away from Juneteenth. Juneteenth. Last year, everybody celebrated Juneteenth. You remember? Juneteenth, Juneteenth. I even told the story of the guy who ticked me off, and he had bought all the Juneteenth shirts, but it's misspelled, and he left an N out, so it didn't say Juneteenth. It said Juneteenth. Remember I talked about that? Do you hear how quiet it is for Juneteenth, brothers and sisters? And I'm going to tell you why. People have begun to understand that a person who has pride is a person that they can't compromise, especially if that person has pride and intelligence to go along with it. That they can tell you along the way, this is why I feel this way. See, black pride came from black power. See, the idea of the pride movement, brothers and sisters, let's just get it out of the way. The Pride movement was jacked from Black Power movements. The old 70s Black and Brown power movements, that's where it came from. And in that void of government and infiltration trying to crash that thing, they said we would rather have this group over here than this group over here. Could it be that J. Edgar Hoover was a homosexual? A flaming homosexual. I had to throw flaming in there. Could it be that he made the choice? Because he never liked heterosexual men. But they made a choice that a Black man in this camp over here is way more controllable than a Black man in this camp over here. That we can control the pride thing over here because this is about love and choice and sexuality. But this over here is about legacy, generational building, community building, and advocacy. I figured this out. We talked about getting it from the dirt. We talked about the farmers previously. The thing about farmers, it's the hardest thing to do in the world. Being a farmer is one of the hardest things to do in the world. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you farm, you can do the best you can. You can plant everything, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get a rich crop. You can plant the seeds, you can water, but there could be a flood and your crop is gone. It could be too early summer and your crop gets burned up. You are literally at the hands of Mother Nature. Does that make sense? And the farmer is attached to the land. Hold that thought right there, that the farmer is attached to the land. Because the farmer that's attached to the land, particularly if he owns the land, has value. He has value, he has agency, he has pride in his land. Now, let me tell you about America. Probably need to tell you a whole lot, but let me tell you about America, how America treats pride. I'm sure you guys have heard it's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going on the ha, 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 ha. I remember hearing that in my mother's Volkswagen, red Volkswagen. It's like a jungle sound. It's making me wonder. My mother said, turn that off. I'm turning it. I'm broken glass everywhere. People pissing over there. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, it's on a Sunday too. Yeah. I remember people not having pride in that song. Turn it off. Why? Why didn't I have pride in that song? Because it told the ugly truth of where we came from? No, it expressed what we were going through. And I remember go-go music. People going, that's jungle music. The percussions and that's jungle music with the drums. You know what it was? It was percussion. It was African drums. And more importantly, during the age of hip hop, this was the live version of hip hop. Go-go bands did not have DJs. We had musicians. We were the last bastion of musicians coming out of Washington, D.C., playing the songs. If you ever heard EU play The Butt, that was a live song. I saw it. I saw them rehearse it down the street. The manager's name was Radar, and we would sit outside and listen to them rehearse. Sugar Bear, Gene, all these guys. But the funny thing is, pride is about valuation for a lot of people. You shouldn't be having pride unless I give you license to do so. Think about that. If I took this pen right here, right? I took this pen and I gave it to somebody. And they say, what is the pen worth? They ask me what the pen worth. I say the pen is worth $100. It's not worth $100. But I say the pen is worth $100. And I tell them, don't go ask anyone else what the pen is worth. Summarily, you may think that this pen is worth $100. Without investigation, without really doing any kind of research, you would think that this is worth $100. Now, if I tell you, hey, I went out and had some questions, this pen is not worth $100, that's pride. Pride is intelligence. And a person will go, what do you mean it's not worth $100? It's not worth $100. In a really, really clear exchange, brothers and sisters, the problem with pride, like Ever Lopez, is if the powers that be don't give you space to have it, they don't designate it, they don't make a writ, they don't write a law for you to have it, you're not going to have it. The problem with black people, we have numerous, but the good problem with black people is we've always had pride. Under the most difficult circumstances, we've always had pride. What do you mean, preach? I'm talking about people who didn't have shoes still managed to create art. What was hip hop back in the day? Guys dancing on cardboard. No difference in kids that would be out front of a store dancing for money. It was the same thing. And people go, "Oh, you dance for money." You no. I'm dancing for money because I have pride. I would rather dance for the money than beg you for the money. I would rather you engage me in an interaction where you saw some value in what I did, and your money was a validation of the value of what I did. And summarily, it increased my pride. Too often, our sisters, in particular our black sisters and our Muslim sisters, are shamed for their bodies. They're shamed for their religious cover. And the only reason people shame them is this is the only way they can get these sisters to somehow have doubt about pride in their decisions. Hear what I'm saying? Pride in their decisions. You know, maintaining your body is a decision, okay? I'm not talking about shapes or anything. I'm just talking about the mental aspect of maintaining it. That means that your body and your relationship to your body speaks to the fact that I have value. It connects with the world and the environment around me. It's not just me, it's everything around me. A hijab, brothers and sisters, and we have this. There's a sister I want to bring on the show who made the decision to go from wearing a hijab to a full niqab. And I sent her a message, a DM on Instagram. Beautiful sister. And I said, I respect your decision. And she said, yeah, I just want people to know I have pride in this decision. I said, I know. That's why I want to talk to you. Now, brothers and sisters, the people, and I might get in trouble for this one. I might, hey, Satata, I might get X'd out like Trump on Facebook. White supremacy is not built on pride. It's built on insecurity. White supremacy is not built on pride. It's built on insecurity. I've made a whole career talking about this insecurity on stage, colleges all around the country. I've literally laughed at people who tried to address me in a racial stance that somehow they knew more than I did. Literally, when you opened your mouth, I knew more than you did. I've taken pride in lectures and debates that painfully, let me say painfully, and with disdain, taking down people who try to take down other people and be prideful for it. Now, let's be honest. This is not just white supremacy. We have it in our community too. Christian communities and African American communities and Muslim communities. We have it there. We have people who try to damage other people's pride. The larger scope of it is it's becoming more and more of a practice. Worse than that, it's become more and more of a legal practice. You see, voting, brothers and sisters, is an act of pride. Think about that. Voting is an act of pride. This young man in North Carolina put a Mexican flag on his back. Do you think anybody would have denied him his diploma if it was a United States flag on his back? They would have applauded him. Yeah, Ever. Yeah. They would have applauded him. But he had a Mexican flag on his back. And people took exception to the point they didn't want to grant him his diploma And this is a kid who's been working his whole life to graduate. And he did it in front of his parents. So not only did it affect his pride, it affected their pride too. Many of them didn't graduate high school. He might have been the first one to walk across the state. And what does it send in terms of a powerful message? It says, don't be prideful. It says, unless we give you license to do so, stay in your place. Meanwhile, in Texas, this young girl is getting interviewed for giving a whole speech about pro-life and protection of a woman's body. Everett didn't even get to speak. He didn't even get to speak. This woman did a whole, they didn't even turn off her mic. Some of y'all even seen this clip too, and I'm not going to hold you up, but some of you seen a clip of the veteran in Ohio giving a speech, and he starts talking about the real facts of Black involvement, Black history, and things like that, and they cut his mic off. And he's yelling. He an old man. He ain't got breath like that. He's trying to scream above the planes and the traffic, and these people cut his mic off. And you know what they said? We told him not to do that. Now, I could say there's a conspiracy, but that's too easy. Because this conspiracy confers something that is covert. It's not covert anymore, brothers and sisters. People doing this out in the open. You know what a Karen is? A Karen is a really misguided, prideful person. Their pride is so high that they think they can get away with everything from lying to murder. Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd because he had pride. And he didn't think George Floyd should have any pride. You know, this is a deep joint. Because it's really, if you're not balanced with understanding the aspect of pride and fairness and intelligence, brothers and sisters, this whole thing gets out of whack. In the upcoming weeks, brothers and sisters, you're going to see a lot of legislation that has to do with pride. And I don't mean gay and lesbian pride. I'm talking about pride. People in the back room, they're going to make value judgments against you or about you. And will be laid to deal with the consequences of their decisions. You know, I'm gonna wrap up here, but I just want you to think about that. All right, just a little bit. Hey, what's going on, Sister Janice? Good to see you on the show. Walaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Give Ronnie Janice a holler from Seattle. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We thought about you today. I saw one of your old messages. And we got Sister Ree Chase all the way. I don't know where Ree is, but Ree, wherever you are, I hope you're having a good time. Brother Derek, hope you are having a good time back in the Midwest. You know, and brothers and sisters, you know, just rethink pride a little bit if you have a chance. You know, just rethink the whole concept of pride if you have a chance. And think of the case study I gave you, that this kid, this Ever Lopez in North Carolina, cap and gown, graduation day, walking across the stage. He has a Mexican flag draped across his back. They refuse to give him his diploma. I don't even know if he has it to this point. Meanwhile, in Texas, a young girl, a valedictorian white girl, gets on his stage, totally refuses to read the speech that she told him she was going to read, took out a speech and read a speech about women's rights, and read a speech about, of course, being pro-choice at 17, 18 years old. Got a comment for Altaf. There were moments to remove Confederate flags and statues last summer, fall. Where are there similar moves to remove city names and streets associated with Christopher Columbus? This is it. Yeah. You know, so I appreciate that comment too, Altaf. I think we're going to have a follow-up again against the cost of celebrating pride. And I'm going to caution everybody before I go. I'm going to caution everybody before I go that these celebrations of pride are really celebrations of culture. And there's been a large-scale political effort to make sure that you're not able to celebrate your culture. In education, in arts, in business, you cannot celebrate your culture. See, we're talking about Ever Lopez, but I know there's plenty of situations of women, black women, who had to sue their employers just to wear their braids at work. Think about that. We got Muslim women who have to go to care because their bosses don't want them to wear their hijabs at work. Think about this, brothers and sisters. There's no better pride than serving your Lord. You hear what I'm saying? Think about that. I remember young black men. There's stories about young black men who couldn't graduate because they had cornrows. I'm giving you the breadcrumbs. I'm giving you plenty of breadcrumbs. You guys got to bake your cake or you got to make your loaf of bread. I'm giving you the breadcrumbs because it's not that far off. I got this book and I'm going to try and get this brother on the show. Arsalan Iftikhar, his book, Fear of a Muslim Planet. He's a good friend of mine, really cool guy. He was nice enough to send the book. It just came out and he signed it and everything. Thank you, Arsalan. But think about this book, brothers and sisters, and I'm going to put this in your ear. 4 Muslims were run down in Canada by a guy who figured they don't have value. He took pride in killing these people. Read the news. This is not fake, brothers and sisters. This is not fake. Okay? This is real talk. You know, when people have misguided pride and no intelligence, this is what we get. And we need to stand up. That's it. Let's go to our sponsors and I'm going to get us out of here. I want to give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. If you don't want to go to the website, don't worry. We got you covered. Call 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175. If anybody has any questions about Saturday's show, go to the website, give a call. You know, the information is free. What you do with it is your business, okay? Again, that's 1-800-679-3175, BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. I want to also give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Listen, if you're thinking about getting a quality higher education experience with your religion of Islam, I would highly suggest that you take a look at Bayan Islamic Graduate School. You can go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. Listen, I'm Preacher Moss. This has been our show today. Think, brothers and sisters, about the cost of celebrating pride. See you tomorrow, inshallah. There you are. I know you're looking at your screen going, that's a good-looking black man. And you're right. I'm Preacher Moss, and you're not. Today, I want to talk about Olive Branch Muslim Family Services, better known as the people who help people. And I need you to help the people who help people so they can continue to, you guess it, help people. Get it? Got it? Good. Olive Branch Muslim Family Services. Action you can see, compassion you can feel. Graphic now.